Previously in part 2.
It's been a pull rather than a push. Like, I've been on the path doing this. You lose any sense of being on the path at all. In the micro, so the day-to-day, that's where you're making the decisions. So making the decision to come here, making the decision to wake up, to do this, to do that. My life, and I would never want to downplay the role that those things can play, but not at the expense of understanding natural ways to address your nervous system, your breath, your body, your nutrition, your health, all of this stuff that we just ignore, and we wonder why we're struggling, and we wonder why we don't have better solutions. And so I do think that it's quite a big sort of punchy piece of this puzzle, is actually people are waking up, not in a conspiracy theory way, although that is happening too, but they are waking up to to independent thinking, I think, is the big thing. And the breath is so, it's the front line often with that. Like, I've introduced people to breathwork, then they get into cold showers, then they get into exercise, then they get into psychedelics, then they get into, X, Y, and Z. And then they're talking about chemtrails. And it's like all of these things that start with something so simple. I think that's at the core of this, is a lot of people waking up to that fact, and also people just looking for support in a very kind of day-to-day practical level as well.
You said this, must have been about 2 episodes ago when you, or no, sorry, this was episode 14, where you were saying antidepressants have their place, but you need to look at other things as well, not just heavily relying on this. And Joe and I said this on the first episode as well that we did, and we say this a lot, is I've taken beta blockers before. I found like the greatest thing I did, although they were needed at the time, was little things. So my cold showers, ice baths with Lumi. I literally do that pretty religiously now, but I was doing it every day at one point. I'm probably doing it 3 times a week at the moment. Having a routine, sleeping better. I was leaving my phone outside my room, electronics outside my room. I know it sounds such a minor thing, but that helped me massively. A little Lumi lamp. I'm not sure if you heard of Lumi, but like wake you up to a natural light and that type of thing, rather than just going straight on your phone. I still do that now. And then the biggest one was, we talked about this all the time, is just putting your phone down and just going outside. And I think I used to struggle being present in my own head. I had so many things going on. I almost didn't want to be in my own head, but putting my phone was a distraction. So just putting that down, going outside for a walk, whether it's 10, 15 minutes, clearing your head, being present. For me, those were like the 5 things, which I don't want antidepressants and everything, they have their place completely. I'm not saying they don't. But for me, that was like the 5 things, which I still do to this day, which was just transformed me. And I just went, boom, as soon as I started doing it. But I feel like that's what worked for me. And on your end, it's the breathwork side. Yeah. What advice would you give to people who might not even know where to start?
Curiosity, and I'd say almost examining what labels you've slapped on yourself, because I do think like those small changes that you've touched on there are the key here, is actually the consistency. And the consistency there comes through a willingness, consciously or otherwise, for identity level change. James Clear talks about this a lot in Atomic Habits, which is if you, let's say we're having a conversation, you're like, I'm not someone who meditates. I'm not a meditator. That's something I hear a lot. Like, I'm not a meditator. You're saying that is who you are as a person, not I don't meditate at the moment, or I've tried it and I didn't like it. Say, I'm not a meditator, or I'm not someone who exercises. I'm not a runner. I still tell myself I'm not a runner. I'm like a baby rhino. Or a sprinter. But if you're telling yourself that, it's going to be incredibly hard to change. So it's actually being willing to go, I'm me, and everything, all these things that make up my identity are labels, they're stickers, they're bolt-ons, that can be changed, that can be taken away, that can be added on, like those little gems that you put on your Crocs. Shout out Crocs. Still plugging away for a brand deal. Plugging away for a brand deal. But with that, in terms of where to start, is actually looking at those labels and going, okay, where am I? What are the limitations of my labels? What am I telling myself that I am not, that is blocking me from becoming who I want to be? because for as long as you're telling yourself that I am anxious, I'm an anxious person, I don't do this, I don't do that, I'm not someone who does this, you'll stay that way. And that's like, I hate people who are like, that's a hard truth. It's a hard truth to accept sometimes, to be like, oh yeah, I do, what role are you playing in your own suffering? Is probably the question I'd ask. Like, what's my responsibility here? Because we all have circumstances outside of our control that will be affecting us. And I wouldn't ever want to downplay that for people. But also, you also have things that you can control, like whether your phone is in your room or not, like whether you check it first thing when you wake up, whether you do spend some time learning about these things and then implementing them. And much easier said than done, because we do have reasons why we struggle to put these things in place. But from a breathwork perspective, the awareness, and we were speaking about this earlier, Joe, like how we can be so unaware of our breath. That's the biggest thing for most people, is actually, listening to me drone on for a couple of hours, and then they go, okay, I can acknowledge intellectually that the breath is important. So that's then Pandora's box is open, because they might forget it, but it'll always be in there somewhere. So the next time that they're, let's say, having a panic attack, they'll go, oh, what did that bloke say about breathing? And that to me is a change for someone who's, they've gone from having a panic attack and not having a clue what to do to having a panic attack and maybe still not knowing what to do, but thinking about what their breath's doing. Yeah. That's a positive change. That then turns into the next time they have a panic attack, after they've gone back and listened to this episode, they think about, oh, I've got that one tool. And the next time, and that's where the change comes in.
They've got Jamie's storytime voice in their head.
Yeah. Exactly. My Scouse accent just ticking away.
It really reminded me of Elliot's episode with the fix versus the growth mindset as well, when he spoke about, I can't speak French yet. Yeah. I'm rubbish at languages. No, you're not. You got to learn a different way. You got to find something that suits you better. And that really reminded me of that.
100%. And there's such a big difference, because it's, or there's such an important difference between growth mindset and toxic positivity. Toxic positivity is putting your blindfold on and pretending the bad stuff isn't there. And you're like, oh, everything's amazing. And there's a dumpster fire behind you. But actually, growth mindset is exactly that. It's about saying, and this is, I guess there's a caveat to this as well. It's like, I can't speak French yet. I don't do breathwork yet. I'm not a runner yet. But importantly, I think checking in with why you want to be a runner, why you want to speak French. Are you shaming yourself into trying to be better instead of accepting yourself where you're at, meeting yourself where you're at? There's this whole idea of kind of, you can never shame yourself into transformation and growth, because you can actually shame yourself into growth, but it's not real growth. It's just beating yourself with a stick and kind of moving yourself forward begrudgingly. Is it coming from a place of love, or is it coming from a place of shame? Like anything that we want to improve or heal or move kind of away from in terms of negative patterns, it needs to be from a place of kind of self-acceptance and love. And often when we talk about acceptance, people think of complacency and go, stagnation. I'm accepting things, so I'm just staying still. Not at all. You can be moving forward, you can be growing, you can be improving from that place of love and acceptance, whilst also like holding firm in who you are. Because coming back to that idea of the Crocs, shout out Crocs, it's all plugging in. It's plugging things in and pulling things out. And I think that's a really important thing to hold on to. Yeah.
I love it. On the breathwork standpoint, people listening to this, watching it right now, if you could give them one quick snippet of that they can go and take away, like one thing they can look up, which they can start in their own home, or they could start in the car listening to this, what would that one bit of, not breathing?
Don't close your eyes.
Breathing exercise. Yeah. Don't close your eyes. Yeah. Please don't close your eyes if you're driving right now.
Don't operate heavy machinery. It's a good question. It's like kind of like picking a favorite child. Often it's like it's all good, but I think my work, I often find myself, I have to be very good at generalizing and tailoring, right? I have to be able to say, for most people, what is the best advice? And then also on an individual level, what's the best advice? I'd say the thing that I talk about the most in terms of the broadest piece of advice I can give would be, when you catch yourself feeling off, because we're all quite good at that. You're like, I'm not feeling myself. I don't feel great. Even if you can't quite put a label on what that not great is. Next question, how am I breathing? So I'm feeling anxious. How am I breathing? And you just start checking in with it. Then you just build that awareness of what is the breath doing in any given moment. And then from there, we can start to create positive change. So that would be the first, is actually going, okay, check in with your breath more often than you are right now. And for most of us, that's going from 0 to 1, not from, 0 to 100. Then it's about, I'd probably say that the exercise that I give out the most is probably extended exhale breathing, underpinned very simply by a piece of physiology where if we make our exhale longer than our inhale, heart rate slows down, nervous system relaxes, everything becomes more calm. So, even 5 rounds of that where you're making a nice slow extended exhale is going to be beneficial, just to take the edge off stress, the edge off anxiety. And the reason that one comes up a lot, yes, because a lot of people are struggling with anxiety, but also because a lot of people just struggle to rest. Even if you're sat kind of in the evening watching TV or in between meetings after work, most of us aren't really resting. What do they say? It's like you're checking the small screen while you tap away on the medium screen while you watch something on the big screen. We're constantly, Russell Brand, I think, once said, another person who's been a bit cancelled, it feels like society has jump leads on my consciousness, like constantly. Stimulation, it's wants, it's desires, it's needs, it's buy this, sell that, be this, be that. And so that's where we really struggle, is this like constant sense of overstimulation. And I often view that breath in particular as the antidote to that. It's the balancing of the scales in a world that is so overwhelming and overstimulating and anxiety inducing in its very nature. That can take the edge off. It's a very, very simple kind of practical tool.
That reminds me, because I'm very much the kind of person who can't switch off. So if I'm coming to you as a practitioner, I'm saying I can't switch off, what kind of things am I looking out for when you say check in? What is it you're sort of looking out for?
It's a great question, and probably going to end up being quite a roundabout answer. The first step to actually being able to check in is about being able to sit still. Sounds very, very simple, but very, very challenging for a lot of people, myself included.
I keep moving my legs this whole time.
Yeah, I think it's just, how often now do you sit and just allow yourself to actually do nothing? I know I don't really, maybe when I'm meditating, probably. But like allowing yourself to be bored, allowing your mind to wander, all of these little things that have gone out of fashion, essentially. That's the first bit, is actually being able to sit long enough to observe. And then it's about, usually, practically speaking, close the eyes and notice the sensations in the body. It might be, a tingle. It might be a bit of tension. It might be your heartbeat. It might be a whole number of things, but we underestimate how much we can feel physically and emotionally a lot of the time when we do stop, when we do pause. And that's why, I see so many people, and I see it in myself a lot, where if I'm go, 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 and there's been shit happening in the background, I'll get home, I'll sit still, and I'll feel all the feelings. Like, I was like, oh, didn't even realize that had affected me so much. And then it will start coming up. So that would be kind of what I'd aim for. Okay. The breath can be a great window into that as well. So it's like the speed of the breath. Is it belly? Is it chest? Is it nose? Is it mouth? Is it fast? Is it slow? Just actually observing the breath as a bit of a window into what your current state is. So if you're breathing really shallow, really fast through the mouth, then we're in that stress state. We're kind of perpetuating that tension, that fight-flight response. But the stillness is the first piece always, like actually getting someone. I always say in my sessions, in the first 5 minutes, I just get people to sit in silence and sit still. And I go, yeah, I know this is the worst part of the session, guys. I'm really sorry, because none of us do it. It's not very natural for most of us anymore. And I do really emphasize in my own life and kind of outwardly as well, like how much good that would do us if we can just sit and be bored and be quiet, and just go inwards a little bit.
That's something I'm going to try to do more, because I literally do the opposite. As soon as I feel myself getting bored, I'm like, Right, Clash of Clans, straight on Clash of Clans.
Well, this is it, right? I think it's the odds are stacked against us. You know, Clash of Clans, Madden, NFL 24. Like, that's my vice at the moment. Like, I did it the other day. I catch myself in it. Like, I'll go and sit on the sofa and I'll be like, oh, I've not read my book for a while. Like, I want to read my book. And then I see the PlayStation and I'm like, yeah, but that's well fun. Like, and it's the ease of gratification, the instant nature of the gratification. Even though, and this is where we can get ourselves into a bit of trouble, because it's that cognitive dissonance, because I know what would be better for me and I'm choosing the thing that's not the best option for me. And then I can start to get a bit niggly with myself and go, oh, you idiot, why did you do that again? So giving yourself a bit of compassion and space for that, but also the tricky thing about understanding the nervous system or living in a nervous system often is that if your nervous system is tuned to chaos and movement and perpetual motion, it craves that. It's addictive. Stress is addictive because just think about what we've talked about. If you're used to that kind of stress and then you try and sit still, the stillness is uncomfortable, it's boring, it's bringing stuff up that I want to ignore. So you then go back into it, which is why ice baths are a very interesting conversation, because I'm a big advocate, but I'm also very aware of the fact that they're a stressor, and that for a lot of people, you know, type A, go personality, they're like, oh, I love my ice bath for a bit of quiet time. I'm like, you're just pouring fuel on the dumpster fire. Like you're just putting stress on the stress that's already there. There's a time and a place for it. There's a huge amount of benefit, but actually, if you're someone who is highly strung, highly anxious, highly stressed, it might not, could be, but in my kind of personal and professional opinion, unlikely to be the best tool for someone who's in that state a lot of the time.
Interesting.
The one episode we don't talk about ice baths. I can't believe we haven't covered it, because we're coming to the end of the episode now. I cannot believe we didn't talk more about ice baths. We literally speak about every single one. But I wanted to end it on this. I know you're going to take us through a quick 2-minute breath work afterwards. We did a breath work sort of exercise with Jamie before. And honestly, Joe and I forgot we were in the room. So it's absolutely amazing. We hope you guys can join in on this as well and find value in it. But I wanted to ask this last question before we get on to that. If there's one piece of advice that you've taken from any point in your life, which you'd love to share with everyone, the best piece of advice, what would it be?
Can I do two?
Of
One's
course.
really simple and just related to what we just talked about, which is just slow down. Everyone should slow down. Where are you trying to get to? Like, I'm saying this to myself as well in this moment. Like, where are you trying to get to? What's the hurry? Because we're so quick to be drawn out of presence by where we think we should be, and you're so focused on where you want to be in 6 months that you forget to be here now. And that's a shame. It's a real shame. And then the second is about what we talked about, I guess, in terms of the deeper healing modalities, which is about these parts of ourselves that we have rejected and pushed away and denied ourselves of, because we think they're bad. We think that they're, that's not me. I'm not this, I'm not that, I'm not arrogant, I'm not loud. Anything that you judge in somebody else is a reflection of a part of yourself that you're not comfortable with or that you're unwilling to accept. And so this isn't about accepting, anything other than the fact that you are whole, that you're holistic, that you are equally, perfect and imperfect. You're perfect in your imperfection, in the fact that we are all messy, we're all unique, we all have light, dark, and everything in between. It's just that we've been told that we shouldn't be that. Somewhere along the line, we all started convincing each other that humans were supposed to be perfect, when actually we're all gross and like dirty and horrible at times, and we're all fucking amazing at other times. So the only way to feel comfortable and safe and secure in yourself is to, you don't have to, let these parts run riot, but accept yourself as all of those things, because you just end up hating yourself for the parts of yourself that you think shouldn't be there, when in actual fact they're always going to be there. It's just about that understanding of yourself and the integration of all of those parts, so that you can come back to that whole sense of self.
Amazing, man. That's wicked. I can't wait to do this next section of breath work. We'll do. What do you think's best for, a quick 2-minute one, so everyone can understand what it is?
Definitely want to do that extended exhale breath. I think if we just go through, we'll keep it short and sharp. We'll do a little check-in, because we spoke a lot about that, and I want people to actually feel what that stillness, that kind of frustrating stillness is like. And then we'll go through 2 exercises. We'll do something called a physiological sigh, and then we'll do an extended exhale breath. And that should take us to about 2 minutes. And
amazing,
see where we
Can't
get.
wait.
And I guess just to, as well, like, I'm very guilty at times of not explaining, because it's all in my head, not explaining exactly what we're doing and why. So both of these exercises are about calming the nervous system. So if people feel like they need that, which I know a lot of people do, then this is the place to head. So I'm just going to ask everybody to sit comfortably, if that's available for you. Close your eyes, as long as you're not driving, and just take a moment here to find a bit of stillness. And really just notice here how it feels to be still. Might be resistance, there might be discomfort. The mind might want to wander a little bit. Whatever's going on, just notice that experience of stillness. And you might also start to notice sensations in the body. You might start to notice tension. Maybe your heartbeat, maybe your breath. Just checking in, shifting your attention inwards for a moment here. And we're just going to take 3 rounds of this physiological sigh. This is going to be a deep inhale through the nose, a second smaller inhale to top it up, and then a soft sigh out of the mouth. So we'll take those 3 together. Take that first deep breath in, top it up, and exhale. 2 more deeply in, topping it up, letting it go. 1 more deeply in, topping it up, and letting it go. Let the breath come back to center. Keep the eyes closed. Notice if you're holding any tension through the face, through the jaw, through the cheeks, the shoulders. And we're now just going to take 5 rounds of an extended exhale breath. This will be a deep, slow breath in through the nose, and then blowing the exhale slowly out of the mouth like you're blowing through a small straw. So we'll take these 5 together, taking that first slow breath in and blowing that exhale out. Good. Again, take that breath in and exhale. 3 more like that in your own time. Deeply in through the nose, nice and gently. And then slowly extending that exhale out. Last 2 here. Deeply, slowly in. And gently back out, allowing that exhale to act as that brake pedal, taking you deep into that state of calm as we take 1 more cycle of that breath. Allow the breath here to come back to its natural rhythm. Keep the eyes closed and just take another check in here. Notice any shifts, any changes in your state, your physical state, your mental state, your emotional state. And we'll just take 1 more clearing breath, this time just a deep inhale through the nose. Big sigh out of the mouth. And then when you're ready, in your own time, just gently blinking open the eyes.
So good.
That's amazing again. Jeez.
Yeah.
I don't even know what to say. That's awesome. Mate,
Thank you.
Jamie, thank you so much for coming
Thank
on,
you so
man.
much,
That's
Thank you so much, guys.
again the
Yeah,
best thing we've
pleasure.
ever done.
Absolutely
Thank you
amazing.
so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.